Donuts in the dark web. It sounds like, I don't know, a bad cyberpunk
Oh,
novel.
a really weird joke, yeah.
But for Krispy Kreme, back in late 2024, this was no joke. It was a digital nightmare. We're talking about a brand that literally sells happiness in a box, getting tangled up with a ransomware gang. It's just a jarring contrast.
It's a huge disconnect in your brain. You see that hot now sign, and you're thinking about, warm, glazed donuts.
Right.
Not encrypted servers and stolen Social Security numbers.
Mhm.
But the breach we're looking at today is such a stark reminder that modern cyber attacks just don't care about your brand's image. If you have data, you're a target, period.
And I think when people see these headlines, there's a tendency to just shrug,
Wow.
Okay, someone got my email, I'll change my password. But as we dug into the source material for this deep dive, the scope here is, well, it's so much heavier. This wasn't just a smash and grab of customer emails. We're talking about a systemic breach that hit over 161,000 people and involved data you can't just change.
That is the critical point. This breach is a masterclass in how deep this stuff goes. We aren't just looking at what was stolen, and we will get to the biometric data, which is terrifying.
Yeah, we have to.
We're looking at how a ransomware gang brought the consumer side of a donut giant to its knees, but, and this is the business paradox, their most important strategic partnership just sailed right through the storm.
The McDonald's factor. That was
Yeah.
the detail in the research that made me stop and actually reread the sentence. It's like the engine blew up, but the car kept driving.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to unpack this whole event. How did the Play ransomware gang get in? Why did the McDonald's deal thrive while the app completely died? And what does this tell us about the fragility of the entire food and beverage industry right now?
Well, to really get it, we have to start with the timeline. And the timing here was just brutal. It all kicked off on November 29th, 2024.
Which is basically the starting gun for the entire holiday season. You've got office parties, family get-togethers. I mean, it's prime time for selling donuts by the dozen. And then, bam, the IT teams spot unauthorized activity.
That phrase is always the calm before the storm, isn't it? Unauthorized activity usually means the bad guy has been inside for a while.
Right. The dwell time.
Exactly. They've been poking around, and now they're making their move. By the time KrispY Kreme flagged it, the Play Group was likely well past reconnaissance and into execution.
And that execution was loud. I mean, the physical stores, they stayed open. You could still walk in and buy a donut with cash. But the company's digital brain just had a stroke. The app went dark. The website was down. All online ordering and delivery just gone.
And think about the money there. For a modern food brand, digital isn't just a nice-to-have feature. It's a massive chunk of their revenue. The reports we saw show it's usually over 15% of their total sales.
So when you chop that off during the fourth quarter,
You are bleeding money
yeah,
fast.
which we saw in the financials, right? A 10.4% decline in revenue growth for that quarter. But let's talk about the attackers. This Play ransomware group. The name doesn't sound as scary as some of the others, like Black Cat or Lockbit.
Don't let the name fool you. They are incredibly effective. Play popped up around mid-2022, and they have just been ruthless. And they don't just lock computers. They're masters of the double extortion model.
Okay, I want to clarify this for everyone listening because ransomware has become this, catch-all term. It used to be they just scrambled your files and you paid to get a key.
Right. Simple encryption.
But double extortion is a whole different ballgame.
It's all about leverage. Look, if you have good backups, you might just tell the hackers, forget it, I'll restore my systems myself. Play knows this. So before they encrypt anything, they steal your most sensitive data. They exfiltrate it.
Oh.
And then the threat completely changes. It becomes, pay us to get your files back. And D, pay us so we don't leak all your HR records and secrets to the entire world.
And in this case, it really looks like KrispY Kreme refused to pay. They called their bluff.
It appears so. I mean, the guidance from the FBI is pretty clear. Never pay the ransom. It just funds their next attack.
Yeah.
But the cost of taking that stance is that Play followed through. In December 2024, they dumped all the data on their dark web leak site.
And this is where that number, 184 gigabytes, comes in. And honestly, when I first saw that, I thought, well, my video games are bigger than that. It doesn't sound like that much.
Context is everything. If that was 184 gigs of, say, security camera footage, it'd be nothing.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about video. We're talking about text-heavy corporate files.
PDFs, spreadsheets.
Exactly. Excel sheets, database files. Text is incredibly light. 184 gigabytes of text is. It's like millions of pages. It's the entire digital filing cabinet for the HR and finance departments.
Wow. That really puts it in perspective. It's not the size of the box, it's what's inside. And when we look at who is in those files, that 161,000 number isn't just customers, is it?
No. And that's a common blind spot for people. We hear data breach, and we immediately think, my credit card number. But the Play Group went for the corporate guts. A huge portion of those affected were current and former employees.
I was scrolling through the list of data types that got leaked, and it's an identity thief's dream shopping list, social security numbers, passport numbers, birth dates. But then I saw U.S. military ID numbers and biometric data. That stopped me cold. Why on earth does a donut shop have military IDs and biometrics?
It sounds so bizarre at first. But when you think about managing a large American workforce, it starts to make sense. The military IDs probably come from recruitment programs, veteran hiring initiatives.
Okay, that makes sense. But the biometric?
That's almost certainly from their time and attendance systems.
The fingerprint scanners to clock in and out?
Exactly that. Or maybe for secure access to a distribution center. But think about what happens when that gets leaked. If your password gets out, you change it. If your credit card gets stolen, the bank sends you a new one.
You can't get a new fingerprint.
You cannot get a new fingerprint. Once that data is out there, it's out there forever. It totally changes the stakes of what we consider acceptable risk for employee data.
Genuinely disturbing.
And it's a liability nightmare for the company. The direct costs for cleanup hit $11 million in fiscal 2024 alone, and that number is just going to keep climbing with lawsuits and credit monitoring.
So on one hand, you have this total catastrophe, a failure of data security. The consumer app is dead in the water. But then you look over at the wholesale business, at that McDonald's partnership, and it is a completely different story.
This, for me, is the most fascinating business lesson here. While the IT team is, pulling their hair out trying to fix the app, KrispY Kreme is successfully shipping millions of donuts to McDonald's without a problem.
How is that even possible? If your network is compromised, how do you manage a supply chain that complicated?
It all comes down to their DFD network, delivered fresh daily. This thing is a logistics beast. They have the factory stores making donuts around the clock and a whole fleet of trucks rushing them to grocery stores and partners like McDonald's. It turns out the systems running that operation were separate from the corporate IT and the consumer app.
So is that a deliberate security design or just a happy accident because they were using older systems?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Very often with these big, older companies, the operational tech runs on totally different architecture that just isn't plugged into the same shiny new cloud environment as the mobile app.
Right.
But whether it was by design or just by default, that segmentation saved them.
And the numbers prove it. While the app revenue completely tanked, the DFD channel grew 21%. They flew past $250 million in sales there.
It's incredible. They're in 500 McDonald's in New York City and didn't miss a beat. They're still aiming for 6,000 stores by the end of 2025. Now imagine for a second if the plane ransomware had been able to move from that HR server over to the logistics dispatch system.
Oh, the trucks would stop moving, the donuts would go stale. And a partner like McDonald's, who demands perfection, they would probably just cancel the contract.
The partnership would have evaporated overnight. It's a perfect illustration of this tension between, efficiency and resilience. Efficiency wants to connect everything to one central brain. Resilience says, no, build your ship with watertight compartments.
So if one floods, the whole ship doesn't sink.
Exactly. Segmentation saved their entire future growth plan.
But this raises a bigger question for me. Why are food companies getting hit so hard lately? We've seen Cisco get hit, Yum Brands. Is it just that they have money? Or is there something specific about the food industry?
It's the just-in-time nature of the product. If you hack a law firm, they can use pen and paper for a week. It's a pain, but they'll survive. If you hack a food supply chain, the product literally rots on the shelves. The pressure to fix the problem immediately is immense, which makes them much more likely to pay a ransom.
Plus, their attack surface has just exploded. I mean, since the pandemic, every single restaurant rushed to do this digital transformation.
That was the buzzword. Everyone needed an app, a loyalty program, a cloud-based point-of-sale system, delivery integrations.
Yeah, it used to be a cash register and a phone. Now it's a web of APIs connecting to DoorDash, to Uber Eats, to a cloud server in another country.
And every single one of those connections is a potential door.
Yeah.
If you leave one of those windows unlatched, say a third-party tool that isn't properly configured, that's how they get in. And we know that the Play Group specifically hunts for unpatched vulnerabilities in things like SSL VPNs.
Let's touch on that. Why are unpatched VPNs such a golden ticket for these groups?
Because a VPN server has to sit on the edge of your network facing the public internet. That's its job. If there's a known flaw in that software, like we've seen with big names like Citrix or Fortinet, and the IT team hasn't installed the patch yet,
It's like leaving the front door unlocked.
it's like leaving the keys in the front door. The hackers are constantly scanning the entire internet for these specific unpatched versions. They don't have to break in, they just walk in.
So, okay, let's pivot to defense. Let's say we're in the CISO's chair. We know Play is out there. We know they want our HR files. How do we stop them? The analysis we saw from WatchPost Security pointed to some really specific indicators.
Right. You have to move past just looking for the fire and start looking for the arsonist with the matches. We talk about IOC's indicators of compromise versus IOA's indicators of attack.
The difference being a crime already happened versus a crime is happening right now.
Precisely. The ransom note on your screen is an IOC. It's too late. That unauthorized network activity, KrispY saw, was an IOA. The whole game is about shortening the time between the hacker getting in and you kicking them out.
The WatchPost brief mentioned some specific tech. One that caught my eye was threat detection for Active Directory.
This is so critical. Active Directory is the keys to the kingdom. It controls who is an administrator on the network. This kind of threat detection lets you plant tripwires inside that system.
How does a software tripwire work?
You basically inject fake, high-privilege credentials into the system's memory. These aren't real accounts. A normal employee would never see or use them. But hackers use automated tools to scrape every password they can find from memory.
So their own tool grabs the fake key, tries to use it, and alarm bells go off.
Instant alarm. Because there is zero legitimate reason for anyone to ever use that account. It turns the hacker's own process against them. You're essentially mining the field.
I love that, using their own automation to catch them. But what about when they're already on a machine? There's another tool mentioned called adaptive protection.
Yeah, this tackles the living off the land problem. Hackers love using legitimate tools that are already on your computer, like PowerShell, because normal antivirus tends to ignore them.
Right, because the IT admin uses PowerShell to fix things. You can't just block it for everyone.
Exactly. So adaptive protection learns the context.
Yeah.
It knows that, say, Bob from accounting normally uses Outlook and Excel. If Bob's computer suddenly starts running PowerShell and tries to encrypt the hard drive, the system sees that behavior is completely abnormal for that user and blocks it instantly.
So it's behavioral analysis, not just checking a list of known bad files.
Precisely. And then there's the ultimate defense for that initial entry point, which is so often a phishing link. Browser isolation.
Which sounds like putting the entire internet in a quarantine bubble.
That is basically what it is. When your employee goes to a website, the website's code isn't actually running on their laptop. It's running in a disposable container in the cloud. The employee is just watching a video stream of the site.
So if I click a malicious link that tries to download malware,
the malware downloads to that disposable container. You close the browser tab, the container is deleted, and the malware vanishes with it. It never even gets close to your corporate network.
That seems like such a no-brainer. If you can detonate the bomb in a safe room, why wouldn't you?
Cost and complexity. But when you look at the $11 million plus price tag on this KrispY breach, you realize prevention is a whole lot cheaper than the cure.
Which brings us all the way back to the human element. You can have all the tripwires and cloud containers in the world, but if an employee willingly hands over their password because they got a really convincing fake email,
the human firewall is always the weakest link. Phishing is still the #1 way in for groups like Play, and they do their homework.
And now, thanks to this breach, they have even more data to make the next round of fake emails even more convincing.
That's the vicious cycle. Today's stolen data fuels tomorrow's attacks.
So let's bring this down to the ground level for you listening. There are 161,000 people directly affected here. If you're listening and thinking, I might be in that data set, what should you do?
If you're a current or former employee, you have to assume the worst. Freezing your credit is the single most effective thing you can do. It stops anyone, including you, from opening a new line of credit in your name.
It's a bit of a pain to unfreeze it if you need a loan, but I guess that's better than someone else getting a loan in your name.
Much better. And you have to do it at all 3 bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's free. Beyond that, you have to become paranoid about your email inbox. The hackers have your data, so they can craft phishing emails that look terrifyingly real.
So if you get an email saying, urgent notice about your tax return, don't click the link.
Never. Go to the official website directly and log in there. Always verify out of band.
You know, we've talked about the tech and the business side, but I keep coming back to that initial trade-off. We download an app to get a free donut on our birthday. We give them our name, our email, maybe our location.
It brings up this really difficult question of loyalty versus liability. We treat these apps like simple, fun conveniences, but every time we sign up, we're depositing a little piece of our digital identity into a corporate vault. And as we just saw with Krispy Kreme, sometimes that vault is made of glass.
And the menu for the hackers just keeps getting bigger.
We're trading privacy for pastries. And in this case, the price was biometric data that can never, ever be reset. That's a very high price for a glazed dozen.
That is a sobering thought to end on. It definitely makes you think twice before you hit accept. Thank you for walking us through all of this.
My pleasure. Stay safe out there.
And to all of you listening, thanks for deep diving with us. Check your credit reports, patch your software, and be careful out there. We'll see you on the next one.